In this video, guys, we're going to be doing a full in-depth review on this, the Exo-Terra Terrariums, all of its pros and the biggest problems that come along with it. Welcome back to Northern Exotics, guys. On this YouTube channel, we talk all things reptile related, whether it be specific species care, breed your own live food, reptile life hacks. We cover all of the most modern, up-to-date scientific information and research. Anything new comes out, we bring it straight to you guys. If that's something that you're interested in, please consider subscribing. And while you're down there, hit that bell notification so you get notified next time I do upload a video. But let's get straight onto this. Firstly, have you guys got an Exo-Terra Terrarium? What animal do you keep in it? Is it bioactive? What do you do with it? Let me know in the comments down below. I'd love to see what some of you guys can come up with, because owning an Exo-Terra, you can get really creative, and I'd love to see what you guys come up with. We're going to cover this in depth with 5 different topics. Firstly, we're going to cover the sizes and its uses. What sizes do they come in? What uses you can have for them. We're going to cover loads of other stuff to do with the details, the little bits and bobs that you probably didn't even know even existed on this. We're going to cover that. We're going to cover how much they cost and what comes within that cost, because there's a whole range of costs that come in loads of different sizes, loads of different bundles and packages. We'll cover that as well. Then we're going to run through all the pros. Again, loads of little bits that you probably didn't even know existed on this and its uses for those little bits. It's absolutely fascinating. But then we're going to move on to the biggest problems with the Exo-Terra Terrariums. That's right, I said problems, not problem. There's quite a few, and we'll cover all that in this video. The sizes, you can pretty much go for anything. The smallest one that they do is this one just here. This is an Exo-Terra Nano. It's 12 inches tall, 8 inches wide, 8 inches deep, and it's the smallest. Now you can see I've got a bit of tape going across there. I'll explain that when I get to the cons further on in the video. But this is the one I use for my sort of mourning geckos. There's 3 in there. As you can tell up here, I've got a ton of little eggs, which so these are going to get upgraded and stuff like that. But this is the smallest size you can go to. It moves up to the slightly next bigger size up, which is this. This is a 12 inch by 12 inch by 12 inch cube, basically. That's all it really is a cube. In this one, I've got a Asamani tarantula in pre-molt, so I can't show you anything. She's burrowed in her hide. Again, bioactive. I'll talk all through all the benefits on that later on. But you can go from this size to this size. Then you can start getting up to the slightly bigger ones. You can get this 45 high centimeters. So you've got 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters. You can go 45 high. You can go 60 high. These are the sort of basic small sort of sizes. After this, it starts going up to the 45 centimeter range. Which, if you have a look, there is the 8 by 8 by 12, absolutely nothing special. Right next to it is the 12 by 12 by 12. Then you can go up to the 45. 45 is the ideal number because that's how wide the widest one always is. As you can have a look, see the mourning gecko there, the tarantula one just there, and the 45 there. Every single Exo-Terra doesn't get bigger than 45 deep. Oh, the mourning geckos are chirping away. That's the biggest problem with breeding mourning geckos. You can't clean the glass because the eggs are stuck to the door and the back. See what I mean? They're stuck to the door and the side, so I can't open the door. So for the depth, front to back, 45 is the deepest it can go. These can go up to 3 foot wide, which again, we'll go through a con a bit later to do with that. But 3 foot wide and 3 foot tall is the biggest Exo-Terra that you can get. That's 3 foot tall, 3 foot wide, 45 centimeters deep. But along with all the different sizes, they come all different uses. But the usage you can have for this is you can go fully bioactive, fully live planted. You can go paludarium, you can go part paludarium. If you don't know what a paludarium is, it's, see this whole section down here, no substrate at all, just water, a heater, a filtration system. You can have tropical fish, cold water fish, you can have basic fish in the full bottom end of this because it is sealed all the way around, up the sides, everything. There's no way anything can get out. You can have that all as water. Just like the one at the Reptile Systems facility, They've got full tropical fish in the bottom. They've got it all live planted up the side walls. It looks absolutely amazing. It really does. And they are nice paludariums. You can have part paludarium where your substrate is all the way along so far and then just teeters off. And then you've got a pond down this end. That's another great option, especially if you're keeping dart frogs. You can have a shallow pond on one end. You can have all the substrate on one end. The uses are phenomenal. You can stick waterfalls in here. You can make waterfalls to go in here. The uses are endless, absolutely endless with an Exo-Terra. Now we're going to take a look at the details, all the little bits and bobs on this that make it extra special, the bits that make it an Exo-Terra. First of all, we're going to start at the very top. On the top of all Exo-Terras, whether it be the small ones or the big ones, you've got these little half moon shapes. Now they swivel just like this, and that helps you take off the top. You've got them on the top of each top corner, and it helps secure it down so that the lid doesn't basically come off. Once you've got them all off, you end up with the lid just like this. Now on the lid, you can see it's got the mesh, and you can see clearly through it perfectly fine. So it is a nice fine mesh. On the top, just here, you've got these little sliders which are absolutely handy for helping you put wires inside the actual enclosure. So if you've got a paludarium down the bottom end and you need a water heater or filtration, or if you have any sort of things that need to go inside the enclosure, you can just open it up perfectly fine, stick the cable down the thing there. Don't put the cable on this side of it, because then you're going to end up with all this gap here and the animals can get in or out. So put the cable over this side, close it up, perfectly fine. On the top of the enclosure with the lid off, you've also got these little rings. Now these are, again, for the cables to go through once you've threaded them through that little hole. That's a cracking little feature just there. And it also helps many different reasons for cleaning wise. You can get in and clean it by just taking the top off. Also, on the top, you can get stuff like this. This is the canopy that fits perfectly on one of these squares. You can get them in all different sizes. This is the 30 centimetre one, and it fits on top of the 30 centimetre cube. Perfectly fine. Inside there, you've got one E28 fitting. In America, you'll have it E27, I think, and it's for your lights. In this one, I have got the Reptile Systems New Dawn LED lighting at the minute, because it's a plant grow light and I wanted to grow that plant. You can add in Uvb lighting, you can add in loads of different things. Inside that, you've got a little reflector that goes straight down. On one side, you've got your on-off switch, absolutely fine. I tend to leave it on all the time, and it's plugged into a timer in the wall, and it's set for 12 hours on a day, 12 hours off a day. Any enclosure that's bigger than this sort of 30 centimetre cube, like these 45 centimetre wides or the 3 foot wides, you can still get the canopies to fit them. The bigger the canopy, the more lights you can fit into it. These 45 centimetre wides, you can fit 2 bulbs in there. So I tend to go for a UVB bulb and a plant grow bulb, just like the Reptile Systems New Dawn LEDs. For the 3 foot enclosures, you can fit 4 bulbs in there. Now they're sort of marketed, especially in America, towards bearded dragons. I totally disagree with all that, but again, we'll get onto that more within the big problems and the cons towards the end of the video. Down here, you can see on all of them, you've got your little latch. It's just a firm little click twist latch. That's all it is. And that locks the doors in place, just like that. Now I love the fact that it's 2 open doors. Well, why do I love that fact? Well, I've got a Scolopendra black flame, a venomous giant Vietnamese centipede over there in one of them, and as soon as I open the door, he comes charging at me with his antlers going, ah! It scares the living daylights out of me, it really does. So I can just unlatch it and just open one door. I only have to open it a bit, just like that, just enough to get the spray nozzle in, just enough to get a bit of food in, give it a bit of a spray. If you start charging, boof, I can just close one door, put my finger on it, that'll do perfectly fine. Now that enclosure over there has also got the Exo-Terra lock. This is a lock that goes through the little tiny holes on the handles and just locks in place perfectly fine. That's a great little invention. Great little addition to the actual enclosures, just to make it that little bit safer if you do have an animal just like that, or if you've got kids that like to get into all of the enclosures. Along the front here, you've got a full vented front. You can't really adjust that vent, but the benefit of that is it draws air in here and out through the top, so you've got a good circulation of air from inside to out. I really like that, but again, there is a little problem with that, which is another reason why the tape is on the front of my mourning gecko's enclosure. But that's a great little idea for great circulation. I love the feet, which are on every single Exo-Terra, no matter what the size is. It lifts the bottom of the glass up about ½ inch off the actual floor. So if you want to use an under the tank heater, you can stick it underneath the tank and it'll be off the floor, allowing for air circulation underneath that heating. Again, absolutely perfect, and it looks neat and tidy. It's just black and glass. Even the silicone that they use around the edges is all black. I think it looks extremely nice just for that. Now, for the size differences, the glass does thicken. So for these bigger enclosures, the glass is a little bit thicker than these little enclosures. That just helps for the extra sturdiness, the extra support. And I have never, ever cracked an Exo-Terra. Never. I've had one leak slightly, but I just drained the water out years ago, re-siliconed it, left it 24 hours, perfect. Inside the actual mesh top lid, you've got a groove that goes all the way around the outside, and that is for when this is on top of the enclosure, that'll just seal it that little bit more. They've thought that extra little bit further just to make it a little bit more safer for your animals. Now let's move over to the costs and what you actually get when you purchase one of these, and I'll tell you another way you can save a bit of money and get these a little bit cheaper. For that, we're going to go to the pet shop. Let me show you this. So over here, check out this guy. How amazing. Then have you ever seen Brian Barczyk? His chameleon, his nosy bee panther chameleon Karma. Well, here's a male version of the nosy bee panther. Well, in these two bioactive Exo-Terras, the female and the male. And then you pretty much go into any shop. This is Sutton Pets and Exotics in St Helens, Merseyside, and you can get loads of different styles. This is the Aztec style, one of the latest ones they're sort of pushing at the minute. They're absolutely amazing. You can get these branch sort of backgrounds, you can get them with waterfalls, you can get them with loads and loads of additional extras. That's the more commonly known background. You can use them for anything. Here's a green tree python, absolutely bioactive, amazing. You've got 4 paludarium styles. You can see how they've got the bigger bottoms, all set up for nosy bee panther chameleon juvenile. Let's go back to the studio. Oh, we're back in the studio. Nothing's really changed. I can hear the mourning geckos chirping. That's about it. We're going to go straight through now the pros and the cons. Remember, we've got some really big problems with these that we're going to go through shortly. But we're going to start off with the pros. Pro number 1 is the doors. I love the fact that you've got 2 doors. As I've already stated, you can just open one door if you've got a skittish animal in there, if you've got small little animals. I just love the fact that you can just open one and get in it. It's much better than the sliding doors where they could get trapped. You'll have that big gap down there. It's just nice, neat, tidy, and very versatile for what you need. Now, stuff like the Exo-Terra Nano, like my little mourning geckos, you only get the one door on the front, but it's only 8 inches wide, so that's not really a massive problem. Plus, they've laid eggs in such a way that I can't open the doors without breaking the eggs. So, but anything bigger than the 30 centimetre, including the 30 centimetre, you get the 2 doors. Same with the bigger ones as well. Now, with the even bigger ones, the 3 foot, again, you still only get the 2 doors, so those doors can be a little bit wider. But I love that it's 2 doors. Pro number 2 is the ventilation. I love the fact that you've got an awful lot of ventilation, so you have a really good air circulation through these vents at the top, out these vents at the top. It's just a good circulation, so whatever animal or plants you've got inside one of these, it's going to have the air ventilation that it needs. You're not going to get the stagnant air that you find in a lot of 40-gallon breeder tanks and stuff like that. It's just air ventilation, air circulation is vital for an extremely healthy animal and extremely healthy plants. Pro number 3, I love the little extras. So like the canopy on the top, I love the fact that you can put additional lighting in there just to help out. It looks neat, it looks tidy. It's much better than having, again, a 40-gallon breeder with just some dome lights sticking on the top and stuff like that. This just looks neat and tidy. It's versatile, so you can move it from the back to the front. You can have different lights in there. The new Dawn LED by Reptile Systems, the Reptile Systems D3 UVB bulbs. You can have anything you possibly need in them. The only issue with them is you can't turn those fittings to point down, so you can't have a heat bulb in there. So if your animal does require additional heat, you will need a dome somewhere or some extra form of heating, whether it be heat cable or heating mat or something like that. Pro number 4 is the versatility of them. They're so versatile. Take for instance this tarantula right now. If this tarantula passes away, oh, what a shame, it's going to be sad. Pick yourself up, get on with it, clean the enclosure out, totally gut it. I can use it again. I can do a paludarium in it. I can do just a planted enclosure. I can do a centipede enclosure, another tarantula's enclosure. I can do absolutely anything with this Exo-Terra. The only thing you're probably going to need to change is the heating and lighting requirements for the specific species. I love that in an enclosure. They're just so versatile. Let's go on to number 5, the feet. I love the feet. Just that air, that's just a stupid little idea, but you've got that air circulation underneath the actual enclosure, so that if you're using it under the tank heater, it won't cause any fire risk or anything. You've got the circulation there. It's just, and again, it looks neat and tidy. Number 5 or number 6, I don't know, I've lost track now, but I love how user friendly they are. They're just so user friendly. You can do anything with them. You don't even need to read the instructions. You can just get it out of the box. You know what to do. It's there. It is what it says on the box. The only thing stopping you with one of these is your creativity, because you can build your own backgrounds. You can use the backgrounds that come with it. You can do absolutely anything as far as your creative mind will take you. And number 6 or 7, again, I've lost count. I love how deep this section is. So that's great for, you've got enough room for a drainage layer. You've got enough room for a really deep substrate for your plant roots or a burrowing species. You've got enough space there to have it deep enough for a paludarium. You've just got that space there. Now I know with the taller enclosures, you can get it bigger. With the smaller enclosures, it's a little bit smaller. But you pick which enclosure you want for the species that you need to go for. If you want any of the products that are actually listed in this video, they're all linked in the description down below in my Amazon store. And for the Americans, I've also stuck some American Amazon.com links down there for you as well. But shall we get on to the bit of this video that everybody's been waiting for? The biggest problems with the Exo-Terra. Now some of it is unavoidable. I'll give you that one straight away right now. Now problem number 1 comes with this mesh topped enclosure and the canopies. Now, not just any canopies, you can use any canopies, but UVB specifically. If you've got a canopy just like this, and your animal requires UVB, we'll take a bearded dragon for example. You shouldn't really be using a bearded dragon in an Exo-Terra, but we'll take that for example. They need a UVI of between 2 and 5, that sort of range. So 10%, 12% sort of UVB lighting. If you put that on here, that mesh is going to reduce the amount of UVB underneath it by 40%. That's a massive thing that you really need to take into consideration if your animal requires UVB. I have actually tested this in a previous video. If I can find that video, I'll link it just there for you to have a look at it, because I tested loads of different things. I tested glass as well, and I was shocked by the results on that one. But an Exo-Terra mesh top reduces the UVB output underneath by 40%. So if you are using this for a species that requires UVB, you might want to up your UVB percentage to be able to allow it to be perfect underneath the actual mesh. Now that's an unavoidable project. That is unavoidable. You can't do it. This mesh top is great on its own. You just have to take that into consideration when you're actually purchasing your Exo-Terra. The next con is rust. That is a metal mesh. It does rust with higher humidity outputs. I mean, just take a look at this. This is the one that's brand new. Well, it's not brand new, it's near enough new. I've just picked it up off a good friend of mine, and that's not rusty in the slightest. But you look over to this one just here, my tarantula's enclosure, and you can see the difference in the rust build-up. So once a month, I tend to get a wire brush and just run it over the top just to help out that rust that little bit more. If you've got a lot of rust on the top of there, it stops the amount of light going through into your animal or your plants. So again, if you're using UVB lighting because your animal requires UVB lighting, the rust will restrict it even more so than a brand new 40% reduction that's on these Exo-Terras. Con number three is again this. I said how much I absolutely loved it, and I do love the idea, but I wish somehow it was adjustable, simply because if you're using a really high humidity species, that's too much ventilation going in there and out the top, so it dries out the enclosure that little bit too quick for my liking. Now it's a bit different in the bigger enclosures, the 3 foot by 3 foot. If you're using them on a tropical setup, it's a little bit different there. But for a small enclosure like this that needs high humidity, that's way too much humidity. I also don't like this, again, for my mourning geckos. The reason why I've got the tape on my mourning geckos is because when the babies hatch, they come out, they can easily get through that vent and out here, and I lose the babies. So I've had to tape that off there. I've had to tape it on the inside as well, just to stop that from happening. But now I've only got ventilation in the top. It's still a little bit too much ventilation to keep the humidity, so I'm having to spray it down that little bit extra, which means a bigger drainage layer, deeper substrate, just to accommodate that extra spraying down. If you block off the top too much with panes of glass, you're going to have stagnant air inside the actual enclosure, and that's not good. That will kill your animal. So just watch that one. If you have, I've seen a few videos where people have done that and have said, oh, this is the right thing to do. It's really not. Stagnant air is worse than no humidity at all. Con number four, I told you I had a fair few big problems. Now this one isn't a problem. This is more of a, if you're going to do this, make sure you don't do the same mistakes I've made. I was building a background on a big 3 foot by 3 foot enclosure a couple of years ago, and it was going great. I tipped the enclosure on its back so that I could spray foam the back to make a good, nice background, a really nice background, because I wanted the background to go right to the top. I wanted it to be custom. I wanted it to be personal to the species that was in there. I think I was using it for giant day geckos at the time. It was a big enclosure. Anyway, I opened the doors so that I can get inside it. I put the doors down like that so that I could get inside it. The doors weighed that little bit too much. Bang, snapped the hinges. Door fell on the floor, smashed the door. Learn from my mistakes. If you're tipping your enclosure down on its back, stick something there to protect the doors, and then when you are working, just watch the doors, because it did stick out quite a way because it was a bigger door. So just keep a very close eye. I ended up having to drill a hole through the top here and put a piece of metal rod through it just to sort of help it stay like that. But we'll go on to the next one, again with the doors. The doors don't open with a hinge on the glass here, like that. They open with a hinge there, so you always end up with a bit of a gap here. So if your animal sticks his tail through there and you close it, you trapped his tail. You don't want your animal to lose his tail, you don't want to hurt your animal, so always keep a very close eye here. You just want to make sure there's no fingers, no toes, no tails stuck in there. If there is, just go, blow them out of the way, close it, done. Just be extra vigilant. That's not, again, a problem with Exo-Terra, because that is a great door, it's a great invention. It's a problem that I've had in the past, and I don't want you guys to make that exact same problem. When you do get the backgrounds with these, one thing that Exo-Terra can fix with this, and I really wish he did, because it is frustrating. When you get the backgrounds with this, whether it be the Aztec background or the tropical background or the arid background, it doesn't go right the way to the top. Now if you're looking at it, it does go to the top of the black, perfectly fine. But go into your local reptile shop, they've all got Exo-Terras, have a look in that top part of the background. It doesn't touch the very top, so animals can get to it. Now there's a groove on the back of those backgrounds, and animals can get behind there, they can lay their eggs down there, all that sort of stuff. That groove is made for wiring and cables and stuff like that. And it's just a flaw that's... There was a problem, Exo-Terra fixed that problem by putting that there, but that created another problem, which is this one. So everyone tends to like roll up bits of paper towel, stick it in the top. Personally, me, on my mourning geckos, I've just gone in and siliconed that gap at the top just to stop them getting up there. Because I don't want them to go down the back, I don't want them to get stuck, I don't want them laying eggs down the back, I don't want that. I want the background because it's absolutely beautiful, it's perfect, really pretty background, but I don't want them to get down there, so I just silicone the top. And that's maybe something you might want to do when you get your background. Just have a look, you'll be able to spot it a little bit better than I did. And my last problem, which is my biggest gripe with Exo-Terra, I would love my entire collection of tropical species especially to be Exo-Terras, because they are absolutely beautiful enclosures and they look nice when they're done, they're so versatile, I absolutely love them. But times are moving on a bit now, Exo-Terra, I think it's Hayden, I don't know, that own Exo-Terra now. Anyway, times are moving on. People are swaying a lot more towards enrichment than anything, making that enclosure extra special. No longer are people going down the line of, I want 1,000,001 reptiles. No, they just want 6 or 7 that's in massively elaborate enclosures, massively enriching. That's the way the world's heading at the minute, especially here in the UK. Lighting is moving on with the new Dawn LED lighting, the Pro 10 LED lighting, all these new lighting technologies, the infrared heat projector. It's all moving on. We need an enclosure company to move on as well. Now, all these are absolutely perfect, but I wish they were bigger. It's as simple as that. The biggest enclosure you can get is 3 foot by 3 foot. Now, although back in the day they'd say, oh, that was good for a chameleon. Not anymore, it's not. We really do need bigger enclosures. Now, I would love to have an Exo-Terra that's 4 foot by 4 foot. Maybe even a bit deeper as well. Instead of it being 45 deep, it's a 60 centimetre deep. That would be absolutely ideal for the modern day panther chameleon. They're just so active, those chameleons. And then you can go down the line of getting the slightly bigger chameleons, or you can go down the line of having a 4 foot by 45 or a 4 foot by 60 tall enclosure for a bearded dragon. You open yourself up to a lot more UK market in the modern day scenario if you have a slightly bigger enclosure. That's my little rant on that one anyway. I'd love to be able to get a bigger enclosure. I know it's going to be expensive, but I'd love to be able to get myself a much bigger enclosure, and I'd love to own a chameleon with one of them. Thanks for tuning in, guys. I hope you have enjoyed my Exo-Terra review. I think I've done it very thoroughly. If you've enjoyed it, hit that thumbs up button, guys. It really does help. And thanks ever so much to everybody out there who's supporting this channel. We're nearly at 10,000 subscribers. My mind is blown. It really has blown. I never once expected I'd get this big. So thank you to everybody. You're all amazing.